Why do we feel like we've been in this situation before? Hmm. Our friend Tom was invited for lunch at Jimmy's due to the affection and good relationship between them. Tom actually arrived exactly on time because he is a very disciplined person, and also because he was hungry. The two sat at a large table full of lots of food. And while Tom, Jimmy, and the rest of the family were exchanging conversation, Tom looked at the dining table with a strange look and suddenly felt a strange feeling like a shiver or jolt. And when Jimmy asked him, saying, "What's wrong, Tom?" he replied saying, "I feel like I've experienced this situation before. I feel like this moment is repeating." And in reality, it's not just Tom who has gone through this. Most people, and perhaps a large number of those watching this episode right now, have also had the same experience, which is scientifically known as déjà vu. But what is déjà vu? And why do we experience it in the first place? Is experiencing this phenomenon harmful? And is it really an indicator of some brain diseases, as is commonly circulated, or not? Déjà vu is a French word meaning seen before, and in reality, its name itself gives us the best impression of the phenomenon and its details. The phenomenon of déjà vu is applied to situations that some people experience where they feel they have been through this situation before, and those who actually experience it aren't just some people. In fact, they are very many. Déjà vu is experienced by more than 2/3 of humans. So if there are about 7 billion people on Earth, you can imagine that around 4.6 billion people have had this experience at least once in their lives, seeing certain situations and events where they felt that time was repeating itself and that they had been through this situation before. According to statistics, the déjà vu phenomenon doesn't occur in people younger than 8 years old. This means anyone younger than this age probably hasn't experienced it yet. But as soon as they pass this age and start approaching their 20s, they'll notice that the phenomenon gradually increases. Upon reaching an older age stage, like 70 or 80, they'll discover that the phenomenon gradually decreases, as if returning to the state it was in during childhood. This has led some researchers to connect it to human brain development. Because when a person is in childhood, brain development is relatively low. And with aging and going through youth, brain development starts to increase more and more. But of course, it doesn't increase indefinitely. And at a certain age, brain development takes a slower curve and starts to decrease again. But aside from all that was mentioned above, why do we actually experience déjà vu? One of the earliest explanations that was developed to understand the phenomenon of déjà vu is that this phenomenon is completely linked to epileptic seizures that affect humans, and that people who have seizures are more likely to experience the déjà vu phenomenon. Additionally, there are certain types of medications that contribute significantly to the occurrence of this phenomenon, and also people who have persistent conditions of anxiety and stress. All of these people are susceptible to experiencing the phenomenon. Now I'll find someone who stands up from among those sitting and says to me, "Well, I don't have seizures, I don't take medications, and I don't experience anxiety or stress, yet I still experience this phenomenon, and quite often too." My answer to him would be, "You're not alone." We always hear from people among our family or friends saying, "Hey everyone, I feel like I've seen this situation before." Or, "Hey everyone, I feel like I've been to this place before, and they are also normal like you and don't suffer from anything." And in fact, this question is 100% valid. Scientists and researchers' explanation that the cause of déjà vu is only seizures, medications, and anxiety and stress conditions is just a preliminary explanation. But they later discovered that the issue is much deeper. The first attempt to understand déjà vu lies in the phenomenon of dual processing, which is a phenomenon that occurs inside the human body, specifically in the brain, when there are two processes happening simultaneously at the same time. And suddenly, a synchronization error occurs between these two processes, meaning that there are two parts of the brain responsible for storing events and memories. The first part is responsible for storing short-term or temporary events, which are then transferred to another part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is responsible for long-term memory. Sometimes, there's a lack of synchronization in storing long and short-term memories, So the hippocampus mistakenly records the event you're currently experiencing as an old event or long-term memory. And then, a fraction of a second later, it records it again in the temporary memory as a short-term memory. And this lack of synchronization is what makes the brain feel like it has experienced the situation before, and that the event it's currently seeing is an old event, even though it's actually a new event that just happened now. So, does the matter stop at this point? In reality, one of the most important other theories that address the explanation of déjà vu is the theory that says the cause of this phenomenon depends entirely on familiarity. Meaning, if you experience déjà vu at some point, it's because there's something specific in the situation you're experiencing now that you actually already have familiarity with. For example, the story of our friends Tom and Jimmy that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Most likely, Tom experienced the déjà vu phenomenon when he looked at the dining table, because this table resembles the dining table that was in his grandmother's house long ago, whose image is strongly engraved in his long-term memory. That's why as soon as he focused on the shape of the dining table he was sitting at while eating, he retrieved an image from his memory, felt familiarity towards it, and that's what made him immediately feel that he had experienced this situation before. If the previous theory explained the matter as being completely dependent on you seeing something currently that resembles something you saw in the past, that's stored in your old memory records, there are other theories that say the opposite, and the topic isn't settled yet. The same person who was sitting just now will appear and tell me, well, I have friends who experience déjà vu with things they couldn't possibly have seen before. And this is a very difficult and strange dilemma. For example, let's assume there's an artist who just finished a new painting that no one has seen before, and no one has photographed it or displayed it in an exhibition or anything. And as soon as he finished it, he decided to show it to his friend Tom to get his opinion. The surprising thing is that Tom, as soon as he saw the painting, suddenly felt déjà vu. What's this? Are we being ridiculous now or what? The painting was just finished right now, and no one has seen it before. So it's impossible for this painting to be engraved in Tom's memory, because it's actually the first time he's seeing it. So what's the reason that made him experience déjà vu? And likewise, people who are visiting a special place for the first time, like any tourist city for example, and as soon as they enter it, they feel déjà vu there, even though it's impossible for them to have experienced this situation before. As these special things don't happen often in a person's life. And in this case, the second explanation lies in the presence of a defect in the nervous system processes, meaning that the signals going to the brain experience slowness or delay during movement. And to clarify this further, let's go to Tom's situation with his artist friend, who showed him the painting for the first time. In reality, Tom saw the painting with both eyes very normally, and naturally when we see something with our eyes, the data starts to transfer from each eye separately and goes to a specific part of the brain called the visual cortex. This is the part that always receives data from both eyes at the same time, and ultimately leads us to see the thing from which we receive the data. What happened with Tom is that as soon as his eyes fell on the painting, his right eye began sending data to the brain, but his left eye unexpectedly delayed a bit in sending its visual signals to the brain, which caused the brain to receive the same data twice in succession rather than simultaneously. And due to this confusion, the data from the left eye that reached him for the second time felt familiar, as if he had seen it before. And that's because he actually had seen it before, but just moments ago when the right eye sent the data. So, in short, this explanation says that the déjà vu phenomenon is nothing more than the brain receiving data from the eye twice in succession, instead of receiving them at the same moment as usual, which makes it treat the first data as something like memories, and then compares the second data to the first data and feels like they're similar to old memories seen before, which makes him proudly say, "I feel like I've seen this situation before." Despite the fact that the déjà vu phenomenon has been scientifically explained to a large extent, there are still some slightly strange explanations circulating about it that have no evidence. We'll mention some of them now, and I repeat again that there is no evidence for these explanations. Who among us hasn't heard some people trying to connect the déjà vu phenomenon to the period the fetus stands in the mother's womb? They said that the reason for the phenomenon is that the fetus sees its entire life flashing before its eyes during its time in the womb, and when it grows up and experiences these events, it says, "I've seen this before," based on having seen it as a fetus. Now let's move on to others who wanted to think intelligently. They said if we connect déjà vu with any scientific talk or theory, people might believe it. We saw this in attempts to link déjà vu to the multiverse hypothesis, where supporters of the multiverse theory would say experiencing déjà vu means that another version of you in a parallel universe has already gone through this exact same situation before. That's why when you experienced it, a connection happened between you both, and you felt like you've been through this situation before. Of course, this is also without any evidence. Does this mean we completely deny the parallel universes hypothesis? Of course not. That's one thing, and this is another. Even though the parallel universes hypothesis itself is just a hypothesis, nothing more. But what we're saying here is that we deny its connection to the déjà vu phenomenon. Then a third group comes along, saying that the phenomenon is nothing but events you saw in your dreams one day, then forgot about, and when you experience similar events, your mind starts to recall these dreams and immediately feels déjà vu. And of course, this too is just talk. But obviously, there's absolutely no evidence for any of this, and it's not acceptable, even from a logical and rational perspective. Now, let's move on to the last thing. Is the déjà vu phenomenon dangerous or not? And is it an indicator of the brain being affected by some disease or not? In reality, despite the spread of many rumors about the danger of déjà vu for people who experience it, scientifically, déjà vu is a completely natural phenomenon. There's nothing to worry about, and it's not an indicator of any type of brain injury as some believe. The phenomenon is actually familiar and has been common among humans for thousands of years. So if you're still experiencing déjà vu regularly, don't worry, you're fine. And with that, we've answered today's question about why we feel like we've experienced this situation before. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and share. And for those watching us for the first time, subscribe and activate the bell so you'll receive our videos as soon as they're posted. And I'll see you in the next episode.